Hey everyone, it's Sophia. So, you know those days when something totally silly happens and you just can't stop laughing about it later? Well, I had one of those days recently. I was trying to take a quick selfie, just a casual picture for myself. But honestly, it turned out hilariously bad. My hair was sticking up in every direction, my eyes were crossed, and I had this goofy grin plastered across my face. At the time, I was a little frustrated, thinking, another photo fail. But later that day, I stumbled across it again and just burst out laughing. I mean, proper belly laughs, the kind that make your cheeks hurt. It was just so ridiculously funny. It reminded me that it's okay to not take ourselves too seriously sometimes. And you know what? I actually kind of love that picture now. It's a perfect reminder of a lighthearted moment. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. I release new videos daily focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. Okay, so, you are never going to believe this. I mean, I still can't quite believe it myself. It all started with a haircut, right? Seems innocent enough, but this haircut was a saga. A full-blown odyssey of hair-related drama. Grab a cuppa, this is gonna take a while. See, I've had the same hairstyle for, well, let's just say a long time. Like, really long time. You know how it is, you find something that works and you stick with it. Safe, reliable, predictable. My hair was long, brown, a bit wavy. Think, classic, maybe a little boring. It was fine, but fine wasn't cutting it anymore. Pun intended. You see what I did there? Okay, I'll stop. Anyway, I'd been feeling this itch. This need for a change. Something different. I was scrolling through Instagram one evening, the usual black hole of perfectly curated lives, and I stumbled across this picture of this woman. Her hair, her hair. It was this incredible pixie cut, all choppy and textured and cool. Effortlessly cool. Like, I just woke up like this and also happened to be a supermodel, cool. And I thought, maybe, just maybe, but, and this is a big but, I am a creature of habit. A change this drastic? It was terrifying. My long hair was like a security blanket, hiding behind it, feeling safe. Chopping it all off? It felt like exposing. Vulnerable. So, of course, I obsessed. For weeks, I'd stand in front of the mirror, pulling my hair up, trying to imagine it short. I'd watch YouTube videos of pixie cut tutorials, analyzing every snip and angle like I was prepping for a surgical procedure. I'd even try on different hats, trying to gauge how I'd look with less hair. It was ridiculous. Finally, I cracked. I booked an appointment. Not just any appointment, mind you. This was with Marco. Marco with the magic scissors. He's like the hair guy in town. Everyone goes to Marco. He's booked months in advance. I felt like I'd won the lottery just getting an appointment. The day arrived. I was a nervous wreck. My stomach was doing flip-flops. I could barely eat breakfast. I arrived at the salon 10 minutes early, fidgeting like a kid on their first day of school. The salon itself was intimidating. All sleek and minimalist, with those giant mirrors and the smell of, is that lavender and expensive hair products? Definitely lavender and expensive hair products. Marco greeted me with a warm smile and an even warmer Italian accent. He was everything I'd imagined and more. Charismatic, confident, and wielding those scissors like they were an extension of his own artistic soul. We talked about what I wanted. I showed him the picture. He nodded, thoughtfully stroking his chin. Interesting, he said, his eyes twinkling. We can definitely work with this. But, are you sure you're ready for such a dramatic change? Doubt. A tidal wave of doubt washed over me. Was I ready? Could I really pull this off? What if I looked terrible? What if I regretted it? All those weeks of obsessive planning and now. I was wavering. I stammered. Well, I think so? Marco chuckled. Don't worry, he reassured me. I'm not going to let you walk out of here looking like a plucked chicken. We'll take it slow, step by step. And so, it began. The snip of the scissors. The whir of the clippers. The gentle tug of the comb. Strands of my long, familiar hair falling to the floor, piling up around my feet like fallen leaves. It was surreal. A part of me, a part I'd held onto for so long, was literally being shed. With each snip, I felt a strange mix of excitement and terror. Excitement for the new, the unknown. Terror at the irreversibility of it all. There was no going back now. The hair was gone. And then, it was done. Marco spun my chair around to face the mirror. I held my breath, and, oh my God, it was amazing. It wasn't just a haircut. It was a transformation. The pixie cut framed my face perfectly, highlighting my cheekbones and making my eyes look bigger. It was chic, edgy, and me. A me I hadn't even known existed. I couldn't stop touching it. The short, choppy layers felt so different, so liberating. It was like I'd shed not just hair, but years of holding myself back. I felt lighter, freer, more confident. It's crazy how much a haircut can change how you feel about yourself, isn't it? Walking out of that salon, I felt like a new person. The world seemed brighter, the air crisper. I even caught myself smiling at strangers. It was ridiculous, I know, but I couldn't help it. I felt good. Really, really good. Of course, there were a few adjustments. Learning how to style it. Figuring out which products worked best. Dealing with the occasional, "Sir," from well-meaning but slightly confused shopkeepers. But those were minor hiccups. Nothing compared to the sheer joy of finally embracing change. The best part? The reactions. My friends were stunned. My family was speechless. My mom actually gasped. It was priceless. Everyone kept saying how much younger and more vibrant I looked. One friend even said I looked like a rock star. A rock star. Me. So, yeah, that's the story of my haircut odyssey. It was scary, exciting, and ultimately, one of the best decisions I've ever made. It taught me that sometimes, change is exactly what you need. It taught me to embrace the unknown, to step outside my comfort zone, and to have a little fun with my hair. Who knew a few snips of the scissors could be so transformative? So, what do you think? Fancy a pixie cut now? Just kidding, unless... Okay, so, you will not believe what happened when I started volunteering at the library. Like, seriously, it was an experience. Grab a cuppa, because this is going to take a while. See, I've always loved libraries. That hushed reverence, the smell of old paper and binding glue, the rows and rows of stories just waiting to be discovered, it's magical, isn't it? So, after I retired, I thought, what better way to spend my time than surrounded by books? And the local library, bless its heart, it needed help. They're always underfunded, you know how it is. So, I marched myself down there, heart full of good intentions and a slightly dusty cardigan, and volunteered. I imagined myself gently guiding lost souls to the perfect novel, maybe leading a charming book club discussion, perhaps even curating a little display of forgotten classics. Romantic, right? Well, reality, as it often does, had other plans. My first task? Shelving. Mountains of shelving. Now, don't get me wrong, I love books. But thousands of them, in varying sizes, with dewy decimal numbers that seemed to shift like desert sands. It was overwhelming. The first day, I was partnered with Margaret, a tiny woman with a surprisingly loud voice and an encyclopedic knowledge of the library's layout. Biographies, 920 to 929, she boomed, pointing to a cart overflowing with books. Off you go, dearie. And off I went, feeling a little like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole. The nonfiction section was a jungle. I got lost at least 3 times, tripped over a discarded newspaper. Who reads newspapers in a library anymore? And accidentally shelved a biography of Marie Curie next to a cookbook on molecular gastronomy. They both had molecules in the title, okay? It seemed logical at the time. Margaret, bless her, found it and just shook her head, chuckling. Close enough, dearie, she said, her eyes twinkling. The children's section was a whole different beast. Picture this. Tiny tables, brightly colored rugs, and shelves overflowing with picture books and board books. And the noise. Oh, the glorious, chaotic noise. Kids giggling, babies babbling, parents desperately trying to maintain some semblance of order. It was sensory overload, but in the best possible way. One afternoon, I was tasked with reading aloud during story time. Now, I Haven't read aloud since my own children were small, and let me tell you, it's a skill. I picked up a particularly vibrant picture book about a dancing hippopotamus and launched into what I thought was a lively rendition. Turns out, my hippo voice sounded suspiciously like a constipated walrus. The kids, bless their honest little hearts, stared at me with blank expressions. One little girl, maybe 4 years old, tugged on her mother's sleeve and whispered, "Mommy, is the hippo sick?" Mortified, I abandoned the walrus voice and just read the story normally. They seemed much happier with that. Then there were the teenagers. Oh, the teenagers. They lurked in the graphic novel section, whispering conspiratorially and occasionally glancing up at me with what I can only describe as deep suspicion. I tried to be friendly, you know, a cool, hip librarian type. "Find anything good?" I'd ask, trying for a casual tone. They'd just grunt and turn back to their manga. Clearly, my cool librarian act needed some work. But you know what? Despite the chaos, the noise, the occasional misplaced biography, I started to love it. I loved the rhythm of the days, the quiet hum of activity, the constant influx and outflow of stories and people. I even started to recognize some of the regulars. There was Mr. Henderson, who came in every Tuesday to read the newspapers. So someone still reads newspapers. Mrs. Rodriguez, who devoured romance novels at an alarming rate, and little Lily, the girl who had questioned my hippopotamus voice, who now waved shyly at me whenever she saw me. One particularly busy Saturday, I was helping a young boy find a book about dinosaurs. He was about 8, with bright, curious eyes and a gap-toothed grin. He was obsessed with dinosaurs. He knew all their names, their diets, their habitats. He even corrected me on the pronunciation of Parasaurolophus. It's Parasaurolophus, apparently. Who knew? We spent a good hour searching the shelves, discussing the merits of Triceratops versus Stegosaurus, and finally settling on a thick, illustrated encyclopedia of prehistoric life. As he clutched the book to his chest, beaming, he looked up at me and said, "Thank you. This is the best day ever." And you know what? It kind of was. It was in that moment, surrounded by stacks of books, the murmur of voices, the faint smell of paper and glue, that I realized what I loved about the library. It wasn't just the books, although I adore them. It was the connection, the shared love of stories, the quiet magic of discovery. It was the feeling of being part of something bigger than myself, a community built around the power of words and ideas. So, yeah, shelving books might not have been the glamorous, book club letting display curating experience I initially envisioned. But it was real, it was messy, it was funny, and it was, without a doubt, one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. You wouldn't believe the things you learn, the people you meet, the stories you stumble upon, just by volunteering at your local library. Seriously, try it sometime. You might surprise yourself. And who knows, you might even learn how to do a decent hippopotamus voice. Though, I'm still working on that one. Hey everyone, learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, but remember this. Words have power, and you're collecting them one by one. Each new word, each new phrase you learn is like adding a stone to your path, building a bridge to fluency. It's a journey, not a race, and every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. You're literally building your power to communicate, to connect, to express yourself. How amazing is that? And you know what? I have a fun little idea for you to try. How about creating your own superhero story aloud? Imagine yourself as the narrator, describing amazing feats and epic battles. You can do this while you're cooking dinner, walking the dog, or even just relaxing on the sofa. It's a lighthearted, easy way to practice speaking without the pressure of a real conversation. And it's so much fun to let your imagination run wild. Wondering how long it will take to be fluent. I get it, we've all been there. You see others speaking effortlessly and wonder when it will be your turn. You might understand almost everything you hear but freeze when it's time to speak. It's completely normal to feel that way. Just remember you are progressing, even if it doesn't always feel like it. Every bit of practice brings you closer to your goal. You will not believe what happened the other day. I was at the grocery store, and I overheard someone practicing English quietly to themselves while they shopped. It made me smile, and it got me thinking. Do you practice speaking English with friends or family? Sharing your journey with others can be a game changer. It builds confidence and creates a supportive environment. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. Okay, so, grab a cuppa, settle in, because this is a story that, well, it's a story that kind of wraps itself around my heart, you know? It's the story of my favorite book. And it's not just a favorite. It's the favorite, the one that shaped me, the one I constantly return to. Ready? It all started, gosh, I must have been about 10, maybe 11. Summer holidays. That thick, hazy heat that makes everything slow down, even time itself. Remember those summers? Long, stretching days filled with the buzz of cicadas and the smell of freshly cut grass. My small town library was my sanctuary. Cool, quiet, smelling faintly of old paper and dust. That wonderful library smell. My family wasn't, let's just say, literary. Reading wasn't exactly a big pastime. My dad loved his sports, my mom her gardening. Books, they were just there. Like furniture. Useful, maybe, but not exactly exciting. So, the library was my secret escape. My own Narnia, hidden in plain sight. Anyway, I was browsing the shelves, you know, that aimless wandering you do when you're not looking for anything specific but hoping something will find you. I was in the children's section, obviously, and I kept gravitating toward the fantasy books. Dragons, magic, faraway lands, those were my jam. And then, I saw it, tucked away on a lower shelf, almost hidden behind a larger, more brightly colored book. It was small, almost unassuming. A faded blue cover with a simple, almost childish drawing of a tree. The title, written in delicate silver script, was The Whispering Woods. I picked it up. It felt old. Not old, like crumbly and falling apart, but old in a way that suggested it had been loved. The pages were soft, worn at the edges. I opened it, inhaled that unique book smell, and started reading the first page. And that, my friend, was it. I was gone. Lost. Utterly and completely transported. The story was about a young girl, Alara, who lived in a small village bordering a mysterious, ancient wood. The villagers whispered stories about the woods, tales of strange creatures, lost children, and whispered secrets carried on the wind. Alara, of course, was drawn to it. Aren't we all drawn to the forbidden? I remember vividly the descriptions of the woods. The way the author wrote about the dappled sunlight filtering through the leaves, the rustling of unseen things in the undergrowth, the scent of damp earth and wildflowers. I could practically feel the cool forest air on my skin, hear the gentle whisper of the wind through the trees. It was magical. Now, I wasn't a fast reader back then. I savored every word, every sentence. I'd read a chapter, then close the book, just to hold it, to let the story sink in. I'd walk home from the library, my head filled with images of Alara and the Whispering Woods. I'd even try to imagine what the creatures she met looked like, sketching them in my little notebook. Do you remember doing that as a kid, letting your imagination run wild? I became obsessed, completely and utterly. I'd rush to the library every day, desperate to get back to Alara's world. I neglected my chores, much to my mother's dismay. My friends would call, wanting to play, and I'd make excuses. Sorry, can't, busy, I'd mumble, already halfway through a chapter. They probably thought I was weird. Maybe I was, but I didn't care. I had my secret, my escape, my whispering woods. But then, disaster struck. I finished the book, and I was bereft. Empty, like a balloon that had suddenly lost all its air. You know that feeling, right? That book hangover when you finish something truly amazing and you just don't know what to do with yourself. I went back to the library, hoping, praying, that they had another book by the same author. But the librarian, a sweet, elderly lady with a kind smile, shook her head sadly. No, dear, she said, that's the only one. It's quite rare, you know. Rare, that word echoed in my ears. My precious book, my escape, was rare. And I might never find anything like it again. I was devastated. Seriously, I moped around for days. My mom thought I was coming down with something. Little did she know, I was suffering from a severe case of book withdrawal. Years passed. I read other books, of course. Good books, even great books. But none of them quite captured the magic, the wonder, the sheer feeling of the Whispering Woods. It became this almost mythical thing in my memory. The perfect book, the lost treasure. Then, years later, I was in a used bookstore in a different city. I was browsing, out of habit more than anything, when I saw it. A flash of faded blue on a dusty shelf. My heart stopped. Could it be? I reached out, my hand trembling slightly, and pulled it out. It was the Whispering Woods. The same faded blue cover, the same silver script, the same worn pages. I felt, I don't know how to describe it, like I'd found a long-lost friend. A piece of my childhood that I thought was gone forever. I bought it, of course. Didn't even haggle. And that night, curled up on my sofa, I started reading it again. And you know what? It was even better than I remembered. The words, the descriptions, the characters, they all resonated with me even more deeply as an adult. I understood things I hadn't understood as a child. I saw the nuances, the layers of meaning. And the ending, oh, the ending. It hit me differently this time. It made me cry. Happy tears, sad tears, I don't know. Just tears. So, yeah, that's the story of my favorite book. It's more than just a book, really. It's a reminder of the power of stories, the magic of imagination, the importance of escaping into other worlds, even if just for a little while. It's a piece of my childhood, a piece of my heart. And you know what the funniest thing is? I still go back to it. Every few years, I'll pick it up, dust it off, and lose myself in the Whispering Woods all over again. Each time, I discover something new. A different perspective, a deeper understanding. It's like the woods themselves are whispering new secrets to me. So, what do you think? Pretty intense for a kid's book, huh? But that's the thing about truly great stories. They stay with you. They grow with you. They become a part of you. And the Whispering Woods, well, that one whispered its way right into my soul. And it's never left. Okay, so, you know how sometimes you just get this urge? This itch to do something different? Well, last Saturday, I woke up with this intense craving to, of all things, explore local history. Not in some grand, museum-hopping way, but something more intimate. Something that would let me touch the past, you know? I live in this quaint little town nestled beside the Hudson River, and honestly, I'd been so caught up in the daily grind, work, errands, the usual, that I hadn't really seen it. So, I decided. Today was the day. I threw on a comfy sweater, grabbed my battered old camera, the one that still uses film, very hipster, I know, and headed out. My first stop was this tiny, almost hidden antique shop downtown. It's called Whispers of Time, which is just perfect, don't you think? The bell above the door tinkled as I stepped inside, and the air, oh, the air. It smelled of old paper, dust, and something faintly sweet, like dried lavender. I could have just stood there breathing it in all day. The owner, a woman with eyes as bright and sharp as antique buttons, gave me a knowing smile. Looking for something specific, dear? She asked, her voice a low, comforting hum. Just history, I replied, feeling a little silly. But she understood. She completely understood. She led me to the back of the shop, where dusty shelves overflowed with forgotten treasures. There were yellowed photographs, postcards from eras long past, chipped teacups, and even a collection of vintage hatpins, each one telling a silent story. I spent what felt like hours just browsing, touching, imagining. I picked up a faded photograph of a young couple in their Sunday best, posing stiffly in front of a Model T. Who were they? Where did they go? What were their dreams? It felt like holding a piece of someone else's life in my hands. So fragile, so precious. Then, I found it. Tucked away in a corner, almost hidden beneath a pile of old sheet music, was a small, leather-bound journal. The cover was worn smooth with age, the title barely legible, River Tales. My heart did a little flip. The river, my river, I had to have it. Back out in the sunshine, clutching my journal like a prized possession, I decided to follow the river. There's this walking path that winds along the bank, lined with ancient willows that dip their branches into the water. The air was crisp and cool, the sun warm on my face. I could hear the gentle lapping of the water against the rocks, the rustling of leaves in the breeze. It was idyllic, almost like stepping back in time. I found a bench overlooking the water and settled down to read. The journal belonged to a woman named Eliza, who lived in my town in the late 1800s. She wrote about her daily life, her garden, her family, the changing seasons. It was simple, ordinary, yet utterly captivating. She described the river with such love and reverence, calling it her constant companion. I felt a strange connection to her, a kinship across the centuries. You know, it's funny, isn't it? How reading someone's words, written so long ago, can make them feel so real, so present. I could almost picture Eliza sitting on this very same bank, watching the same river flow by. As I read, I started noticing details about the riverbank I'd never noticed before. There were remnants of old docks, barely visible beneath the overgrown weeds. A crumbling stone wall, half hidden by trees. These silent witnesses to the past were all around me, just waiting to be discovered. Guess what happened next? I stumbled upon this tiny, almost hidden graveyard. It was tucked away behind a thicket of trees, overgrown and forgotten. The headstones were weathered and worn, many of the inscriptions barely legible. It felt sacred. I walked among the graves, reading the names and dates, imagining the lives lived and lost. Some of the names were familiar, families I'd seen mentioned in Eliza's journal. It was like the past was coming alive around me. I sat down on a moss-covered stone, feeling a profound sense of peace and connection. I thought about Eliza, about all the people who had lived and loved along this river before me. I realized that history isn't just about dates and battles and famous figures. It's about the ordinary lives of ordinary people. It's about the stories they tell, the memories they leave behind. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, I made my way back home. My feet were tired, my camera full of undeveloped film, but my heart was full. That day, exploring local history wasn't just about learning about the past. It was about connecting with it, feeling it, breathing it in. It was about realizing that the past isn't really gone. It's still here, all around us, woven into the fabric of our present. In the whispers of the wind through the willows, in the gentle lapping of the river against the rocks, in the faded ink of an old journal. And you know what? I think Eliza would be happy to know that her river tales are still being read, still connecting people to this place, this history, this magic. It made me think, what stories will I leave behind? What whispers will echo through time? It gives you a different perspective, doesn't it? That evening, curled up on my couch with a cup of tea, I flipped through Eliza's journal again. The river outside my window, the same river she knew and loved, shimmered in the moonlight. And in that moment, I felt like I wasn't just reading about history. I was living it, and that, my friend, is a feeling unlike any other. Hey everyone, learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, right? But remember this. A little courage creates big progress. Think about it. Even a few words spoken bravely can open up so many doors. It's like taking those first few steps up the mountain. Suddenly, the peak doesn't seem so far away. You build confidence with every small act of courage, and before you know it, you're conversing fluently. You got this. You know what can be a really fun and practical way to practice your speaking? Practicing how to answer a phone call professionally. Imagine you're cooking dinner, and the phone rings. Instead of panicking, you smoothly answer with a confident, "Hello, this is," your name, speaking. It's such a simple exercise, but it helps you get comfortable with greetings, introductions, and even taking messages. Plus, you can practice anytime, anywhere, even on a walk. Honestly, it feels like magic when you realize you can handle these everyday situations in English. Thinking about how language opens new opportunities is truly exciting. Do you also find yourself understanding what others say in English, but hesitate when it's your turn to speak? It's completely normal. Learning a language is about pushing past that hesitation, because each time you do, you're opening doors to new friendships, experiences, and even career possibilities. It's like stepping into a whole new world. You will not believe what happened next. I was chatting with a friend the other day who was sharing their amazing language learning journey, and it got me thinking. What's the best advice you've received about learning English? I'm so curious to hear your tips and tricks because we all learn so much from each other. Share your wisdom in the comments below. Let's inspire each other too. Keep going. Okay, so grab a cuppa, settle in, because this is a story I have to tell you. It's about the day I wore mismatched shoes. I know, it sounds mundane, right? But trust me, this was epic. Epically embarrassing, but also, weirdly, enlightening. It was a Tuesday. I remember that because Tuesdays were always my busiest days. At the bakery, the aroma of cinnamon rolls still clung to the air from that morning's bake, mingling with the yeasty scent of rising sourdough. You know that smell, right? Warm, comforting, a little bit sweet. It usually grounded me, made me feel in control, but not that day. That day, the comforting smells were just background noise to the internal scream building inside me. I had woken up late, which, let's be honest, is not that unusual for me. But this was seriously late. Like, the sun was already streaming through the window. Birds were tweeting their little morning gossip, and my alarm clock was blinking accusingly at me from the nightstand. It felt like it was judging me. You know that look, right? The blinking red eyes of disapproval? So, in a flurry of panicked activity, picture flying pajamas, a half-eaten piece of toast clutched in my hand, and hair that resembled a bird's nest, I got ready. I threw on my favorite jeans, a comfy sweater, the blue one, the one with the tiny hole near the cuff that I keep meaning to mend, and raced out the door. Now, this is where the story gets interesting. Or, mortifying. I was so focused on not being late, on not disappointing Mrs. Higgins, who relies on her Tuesday morning delivery of rye bread like it's the oxygen she breathes, that I didn't look down. See, my shoes, they live in a little pile by the door. A organized pile, mind you, not a chaotic mess. I'm not a monster, but, in my haste, I just grabbed the first two shoes my hands landed on and shoved my feet into them. Click, clack, out the door, keys jangling, muttering apologies to the sleepy-eyed cat who barely acknowledged my existence. The bakery was, as always, a hive of activity. Flour dusted the air like a gentle snowfall. The rhythmic thump of the kneading machine provided a steady beat, and the chatter of my colleagues filled the space. I loved it there. It was my happy place. Usually, I was halfway through shaping a baguette, my hands happily coated in flour, when I saw it, or rather, them, my shoes. Or, to be more precise, the shoes. One was my sensible brown work clog. Practical, sturdy, slightly scuffed from years of faithful service. The other? Oh, the other. It was a bright pink, sparkly, sequined ballet flat. The one I wear for, well, I don't even know. It was a relic from a forgotten costume party, a sparkly testament to a night of questionable decisions. I stared, blinked, stared some more. It felt like the whole world had slowed down, the whir of the mixer fading into the background as my mismatched feet became the focal point of the universe. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Seriously, just open up and gulp me down. My cheeks burned, my heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Had anyone noticed? Of course they had noticed. How could they not notice? It was like wearing a flashing neon sign that screamed, "Look at me. I'm a walking fashion disaster." Sarah, my colleague, the one with the infectious laugh and a penchant for brightly colored aprons, caught my eye. Her lips twitched. Then, a slow, mischievous grin spread across her face. "Nice shoes, Lily," she said, her voice dripping with playful mockery. And then, it happened. The dam of composure I'd been precariously holding together burst. I laughed so hard, tears streamed down my face, my stomach ached, and I had to lean against the counter for support. The absurdity of it all just hit me. The rushed morning, the panicked dash, the mismatched shoes. It was all just, so me. And suddenly, it didn't feel mortifying anymore. It felt funny. Sarah joined in, her laughter ringing out like a joyful chime. Soon, the whole bakery was filled with the sound of our combined mirth. Even grumpy old Mr. Henderson, who usually just grunted a greeting, cracked a smile. The rest of the day went by in a blur of good-natured teasing and shared laughter. My mismatched shoes became the talk of the bakery. People stopped by, my station just to peek at my feet and shake their heads in amusement. Some even shared their own stories of fashion faux pas, of mismatched socks, inside-out shirts, and forgotten zippers. It was a bonding experience, a reminder that we all have those moments, those little stumbles and bumbles that make us human. You know, I thought that day would be a disaster. I imagined the whispers, the stares, the judgment. But it wasn't. It was surprisingly wonderful. It was a reminder not to take myself so seriously. To embrace the imperfections, the little absurdities that make life so interesting. I learned a valuable lesson that day. A lesson about laughter, about connection, and about the unexpected joy that can be found in the most embarrassing of situations. And yes, I also learned to double-check my shoes before leaving the house. But honestly, the memory of that day, the laughter, the camaraderie, it's worth 1,000 mismatched shoes. So, what do you think? Pretty crazy, right? I still can't believe I wore a sparkly pink ballet flat and a brown clog to work. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. It was a reminder that sometimes, the most embarrassing moments can turn into the most memorable ones. And that, my friend, is a story worth sharing over a cup of tea, wouldn't you agree? Okay, so, you have to hear about this. It's the story of when I visited Decode Castle in Scotland. You know, that dramatic ruin perched on a cliff overlooking the North Sea? Yeah, that one. It had been a dream of mine forever. I'd seen photos, you know, the kind that take your breath away. And let me tell you, the reality was even more breathtaking. So, picture this. It was a crisp autumn day. A little windswept, the kind that makes your cheeks rosy and your hair a beautiful mess. I'd driven up the coast, stopping at charming little villages, grabbing fish and chips wrapped in newspaper, the whole 9 yards. And then, bam, rounding a bend, there it was. Decode, rising out of the sea like something out of a fantasy novel. Honestly, I almost drove off the road. I parked, heart thumping like a drum solo, and made my way towards the visitor center. The air smelled like salt and, well, something ancient. Can you imagine the smell of centuries of history? I don't know if that's even a real thing, but that's what I smelled. It was this mix of sea spray, damp earth, and something, almost metallic. Like the whisper of old cannons and forgotten battles. I bought my ticket, and a little guidebook, because, let's be honest, my knowledge of Scottish history was a little shaky, and started the walk toward the castle. The path winds along the cliff edge, and the views, oh, the views. The waves crashing against the rocks below, sending up sprays of white foam. The seabirds calling overhead, their cries echoing in the wind. I was mesmerized, absolutely and utterly mesmerized. There's this narrow little bridge that connects the mainland to the rocky outcrop where the castle stands. And as I crossed it, I felt this shiver. You know, like I was stepping back in time. The wind picked up, tugging at my jacket, almost like a ghostly hand beckoning me forward. Dramatic, right? I know, but that's how it felt. And then, I was there. Inside the castle walls. It's not some pristine, perfectly preserved castle, you know? It's a ruin. But that's what makes it so incredible. You can see the layers of history, the different eras stacked on top of each other like a delicious, crumbling cake. The stone walls, worn smooth by time and weather. The crumbling archways, framing glimpses of the turbulent sea below. I was instantly transported. I wandered through the ruins, my guidebook clutched in my hand, trying to piece together the stories these stones could tell. The whispers of royal intrigue, the echoes of sieges, the resilience of a people who held this fortress against impossible odds. I stood in what was once the Great Hall, imagining lavish feasts and whispered conversations. I peered into the dungeons, feeling a chill despite the bright autumn sunshine. I climbed the crumbling staircases, feeling the wind whip through the empty windows, almost hearing the laughter of children who might have played here centuries ago. You know, there's something about touching those ancient stones, running your hand over the rough surface. It connects you to the past in a way that's hard to describe. I sat on a low wall, overlooking the sea, and just breathed it all in. The history, the beauty, the sheer wildness of it all. And that's when I made my mistake. I got so lost in the moment, so caught up in the atmosphere, that I completely missed the sign warning about the drop. I was taking a selfie. I know, so touristy, right? And I stepped back, just a little bit, to get a better angle. And then, whoosh, my foot slipped on some loose gravel, and I felt myself falling. It wasn't a dramatic, Hollywood-style fall, thankfully. More of a stumble, really. But it was enough. I landed on my backside, with a rather undignified, oof. My camera flew out of my hand, landing with a clatter on the stones. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, and I was pretty sure I'd ripped my favorite jeans. But do you know what the first thing I did was? I checked my camera. Priorities, right? Thankfully, it was fine. A few scratches, but still working. Then, I checked myself. Apart from a bruised ego and a slightly sore bum, I was okay. Just a little shaken up. And then I started laughing. I mean, what else could I do? Sitting there, amongst the ruins of a centuries-old castle, having just nearly tumbled over the cliff edge because I was too busy trying to take a selfie. It was ridiculous. I dusted myself off, retrieved my camera, and then I took the selfie. Because, hey, why not? It might not be the most glamorous photo I've ever taken. Slightly windswept hair, dirt smudged on my cheek, a slightly pained expression. But it's a photo that tells a story. A story of my slightly clumsy, but utterly unforgettable, adventure at Decode Castle. And that, my friend, is just a tiny sliver of the experience. I haven't even told you about the fascinating exhibits in the visitor center, the friendly locals I chatted with, or the delicious scones I devoured at a little tea room nearby. But just imagining myself back there, standing on those cliffs, feeling the wind in my hair, and breathing in the salty air, it gives me goosebumps. You really should go. Seriously. It's a place that gets under your skin, you know? A place that whispers stories of the past and fills you with a sense of wonder. It's a place that makes you feel small and insignificant, yet somehow connected to something much larger than yourself. So, yeah, Decode Castle. Go. You won't regret it. Just watch your step. Especially when you're taking selfies. Learn from my mistakes. Well, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching and spending this time with me. It really means a lot to have you here, and I truly appreciate you staying connected throughout this video. I hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe so you can stay updated with new daily content focused on improving your English speaking and listening skills. And if you think someone else might enjoy this too, please share it with them. You know, before we go, it made me wonder, what's your plan for relaxing after a long week? It's always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and sharing your plans is a fantastic way to practice expressing yourself in English and connect with other learners in the comments. I'm excited to hear all about it. See you tomorrow, and in the meantime, take good care of yourselves, stay consistent with your practice, and keep shining.